Welcome again to another episode of Storytime with me, Isabella. And today, we hear about the man who walked with God. Long, long ago, when the world was still new and fresh, and the first trees were just stretching their branches toward the sky, there lived the very first family on earth: Adam, Eve, and their two sons, Cain and Abel. The world back then was quiet and peaceful. Rivers sparkled like ribbons of silver. The wind whispered in the tall grass, and the animals lived in harmony. Adam and Eve taught their boys about God, the Creator who made everything they could see: the sun, the moon, the stars, and the beautiful garden they lived near. As Cain and Abel grew older, they became strong young men with different talents and interests. Cain, the older brother, loved the soil. He loved digging into the earth with his hands, planting seeds and watching things grow. He became a farmer, growing fruits, grains, and vegetables. Abel, the younger brother, loved caring for animals. He would lead his sheep to soft green fields, protect them from harm, and make sure they always had food and water. He became a shepherd. Even though they were different, they were both important. Farming and shepherding helped their family grow and survive, and both Cain and Abel loved God. One day, Adam and Eve taught their sons something very special. To thank God for his goodness, they said, you should bring him an offering, something that shows love, gratitude, and respect. Cain and Abel listened carefully. They knew God deserved their very best. Cain gathered some of the food he had grown from the ground: fruits, vegetables, grains. He placed them into a basket and brought them as his offering. Abel chose from the best of his sheep, healthy, strong, firstborn animals from his flock. He brought the very finest he had. The Bible doesn't tell us every detail, but it does tell us something important. God looked with favor on Abel's offering, but he did not look with favor on Cain's. Now, this doesn't mean God disliked Cain. God loved both brothers deeply, but Abel's offering came from a heart full of love and obedience. He gave God the best he had. Cain, however, gave something, but not his best. His heart wasn't as willing, cheerful, or honest. God sees beyond what we hold in our hands. He sees what we hold in our hearts. When Cain realized God was pleased with Abel's offering, but not his own, he became very upset. His face sank. He felt angry, embarrassed, and jealous. 3 feelings that can cause big trouble if we don't handle them the right way. God saw Cain's sadness and said gently, "Cain, why are you angry? If you do what is right, you will be accepted. But if you don't, sin is waiting at your door. You must learn to rule over it." God wasn't scolding Cain. He was warning him, teaching him. He was saying, "Cain, you can still choose what's right. It's not too late." But Cain wasn't listening. His anger grew bigger. His jealousy grew louder. And instead of talking to God, instead of making things right, he let his feelings take control. One day, Cain said to Abel, "Come with me to the field." Abel agreed. He always trusted his brother. But out in the quiet field, something terrible happened. Cain let his anger control him. He hurt Abel, and Abel died. It was the first time such a thing had ever happened on earth. The wind was silent. The sky seemed still. The world changed that day. Cain thought no one would know. But God sees everything, not to punish, but because he cares for his children. God came to Cain and asked, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain crossed his arms and said one of the saddest sentences in the Bible, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" But God knew the truth. He said, "Cain, Abel's blood cries out to me from the ground." God's heart was full of sorrow, because even when we do wrong, he still loves us. The consequence. God told Cain that there would be consequences for what he had done. He would no longer be able to grow crops easily. The ground would not give him strength anymore. Cain would have to wander from place to place, Cain felt terrified. "My punishment is too much," he cried. "Anyone who finds me will try to hurt me." But even then, even after Cain made such a terrible choice, God showed mercy. God placed a special mark of protection on Cain and said, "No one may harm Cain." Even in discipline, God cared for him. So Cain left, beginning his journey as a wanderer. But God's love never stopped following him. The lesson for us today. The story of Cain and Abel teaches us many things. 1. God wants our best, not just something. He wants offerings, prayers, and actions that come from a loving heart. 2. Jealousy is dangerous. It grows quietly, but can lead to big mistakes. 3. God always gives warnings before we do wrong. He tries to guide us back to the good path. 4. It's okay to feel angry, but not okay to hurt others. We should talk about our feelings, not hide them. 5. We are our brother's keeper. God wants us to care for one another, protect one another, and choose kindness. Even though Cain made a terrible choice, God didn't abandon him. And that teaches us something beautiful. God is full of mercy. God forgives. God helps us start again. The story of Cain and Abel reminds us to choose kindness over jealousy, give God our best, talk about our feelings, protect our siblings and friends. Listen when God guides our hearts. Until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.